Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the Underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The Underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the Underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-around good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. As always, we are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be breaking down that new trailer for the Book of Boba Fett. It finally has arrived, and we're so excited to react to it and to break it down for the first time. We've got some big rumors to talk about what's going to be going on next week on Disney Plus Day, including might we be getting a new animated series announcement? And of course, we're going to be talking with Hasbro, the team over there, about their latest Star Wars reveals, all that and much more on this episode of the show. My name is Chris, and joining me, it's my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Oh, it's the most wonderful time of the year. No, I'm not talking about Christmas. It's still November. Everybody settle down.
You're allowed to do that. Halloween's past now.
Yeah. No. But it's my favorite holiday, which is Star Wars Trailer Day.
Yes.
We get to break down a Star Wars trailer. I'm so excited. I love this new Book of Boba Fett trailer, and I can't wait to do a deep dive on it with you guys. And I'm sure everybody listening can't wait for that as well. So I'm not going to bore you with a big long story at the beginning of the show. Let's get to it as quickly as we can. It's Trailer Day. It's going to be a great show.
Also joining us, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Whew, these are the best shows, are they not? Are they not? Yeah, we've been waiting. I've been chomping at the bit for a couple of days now, waiting for this, because I'm still kind of mad because they dropped this trailer while I was sleeping. That was very rude of them. I got it about an hour later than everybody else in the world. But okay, I'm okay. And then Australians were like, they woke up like 12 hours later, like, what happened? So I feel bad for them. But still, very, very, very happy to be talking about this tonight because, oh man, we've been waiting so long.
I have to say, Ben, you were asleep, but everybody will find out what I was doing when this trailer dropped later in the show. I'll set that up, a little teaser there. I was doing something very interesting, and you will all find out at about the end of the show. That's when you'll find out. Is at the end of the show. But yeah, exciting times. Let's run through those plugs because we got a trailer to talk about.
As you can see, we are so close to 1,000 subscribers. That says 951. So we need 49 more. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell, and that's going to help us out a lot on YouTube. Check out all the other shows on the Culture Slate Network. We got Star Wars Culture, we got The Rollout, we got Cheddar Squadron. Go to Culture Slate's YouTube channel, look at all the favorite channels over there, and you can subscribe to all of them and check out their awesome content. We've got a tiny little update to our Patreon. It's not finished yet, but some things have been changing, and if you want a sneak peek, head over there to patreon.com/theswu. There's a few surprises for you, and that's why we're not promoting TeePublic this week. And for that, swunderworld@gmail.com is where you can send your feedback, and finally leave us a review if you're able to on the podcast app that you are listening to. Let's get right into the news.
All right, let's get to it, and let's start talking about this trailer. But before we talk about it, let's all watch it together one more time.
I am not a bounty hunter. I've heard otherwise.
I know that you sit on the throne of your former employer.
Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect.
You were all once captains under Jabba the Hutt.
I'm here to make a proposal that's mutually beneficial. Why speak of conflict when cooperation can make us all rich?
What prevents us all from killing you and taking what we want?
If you had spoken such insolence to Jabba, he'd have fed you to his menagerie.
Please, speak freely.
Oh man, Book of Boba Fett, December 29th, episode 1 on Disney Plus. Let's get some reaction to the trailer. And Ben, as always, we're going to throw it to you first. And I'll just remind you, Ben, when you're talking about the trailer, speak freely.
I would love to. Boba Fett, don't kill me. So this trailer, I think it does so much. Obviously, amazing. I think everyone can see like it's an amazing trailer. It shows us so much, but also doesn't show that much. If you actually watch it, you can tell there's a lot of like intercut scenes that are just like going back and forth between a few different scenes. I really feel like we're only seeing maybe some footage from maybe the first or second episode at the most. I think they're really holding back with this. And I love that. I love the idea of going into the show and not seeing everything and having some really things. And we've heard some rumors and some crazy stuff might happen in this. We don't see any of that, and that's great. I want that to be a surprise. But what we do get is some really great stuff, kind of what we expected, but also just some confirmations of like, okay, where could this show go? Okay, it's going this direction. It's going to be this mob, kind of story on Tatooine. We see this giant city. Obviously, I think it seems like the budget has been kicked up quite a bit because I don't recall shots like that in The Mandalorian. This show somehow looks better than The Mandalorian, and that's saying something. And just Boba Fett himself, I think there's a lot of the costume. Just like there was some ticks in there in Mandalorian that was like, they could have refined that, whatever. You could tell like in like the tragedy, it was like clearly just they just put the armor over his robes very just like very haphazardly. It looked fine, all right. It was Boba Fett back. We didn't complain, but it was definitely like, they could do better. They've done better. He looks incredible. And Tim Morrison looks incredible. And it's just I'm so happy to see this and finally happening, having to, this is just a couple months away, 55 days, y'all.
Yeah. It's just around the corner. I mean, you mentioned it, Ben. There's really nothing in this trailer that we couldn't have inferred from the final scene of The Mandalorian season 2.
Right.
Like it really just sort of expands on everything that happens in that scene and suggests a few things, but it's all the stuff that I think we were expecting going into it. And one thing I'm excited to see as the series goes on, because I do agree with you that likely this trailer only covers the first part of the season. Although I will remind everybody that the Mandalorian season 1 trailers showed stuff from like the last 5 minutes of the last episode. So it's possible that we're just kind of that we might be wrong about that. But I agree with you that likely it's just the first couple of episodes. So it makes me wonder, where else is this story going to go? What more could we see in addition to what we're already seeing, which looks really exciting? Chris, let's get some reaction from you. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, half of me is disappointed that we saw so little in the trailer. And then the other half of me is excited that we're going to get all those reveals in the show. Because that's something that The Mandalorian has been really good at, is hiding a lot of stuff from us and then revealing it, as we're watching it, which is super awesome. Right. And it makes me wonder if they are showing so little of this show. And it does appear that the stuff is from just a few scenes towards the beginning of this series as they're setting up the exposition for what it's going to be about. Like, what is after that? Like, is what characters and situations and planets and whatever is going to come in that, they want to be a surprise. Because if the whole show is just like this, if the whole show is just, Boba Fett and Fennec Shand kicking butt, then they probably would have shown all those fight scenes because you're not really revealing anything. So it's almost like an intriguing thing where I'm actually more interested in what we didn't see than what we did see, which is interesting. Because what we did see, as Ben said, it's pretty obvious. Like, it's nothing surprising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's what it's what you'd expect based on the way season 2 of Mando ended.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing. Like you said, it means they're saving the reveals for the show. I wonder, I always wonder, like, if this trailer could have premiered at Celebration or at Comic-Con or D23 or something like that, or even an event like a Disney Plus Day or something, where there's an audience. Would they have included something else in it, like a little extra stinger that would have been the thing that got everybody jumping out of their seats, going crazy? Because that tends that I've noticed that there tends to be, there's the celebration trailers and then there's the normal trailers, and the celebration trailers always have that moment that's just there for the people that are watching the live stream or are there in person, or the people that are waiting desperately for the trailer, where it's like, here's your nugget, here's the thing that's really exciting to you that maybe everybody else won't be quite so into. Whereas the trailers that just sort of go out on a random Monday in the morning are curated for everybody. Therefore, they're just trying to drum up interest in the show with general audiences. So I suspect there's some of those celebration moments, so to speak, in the show. But it is kind of nice that they're keeping those hidden for the time being. Let's talk about Boba Fett himself in the trailer, because it's a very interesting look we get at him. Chris, I'll just throw it over to you, because you're the biggest Boba Fett fan, I think, on this show, and we're all Boba Fett fans, so that's saying something. What did you think of the way they're portraying Boba in this trailer?
I think this is a really interesting character study that I don't feel like we've seen much in Star Wars, where you have almost this idea of a benevolent dictator. Because in Star Wars, typically the dictators are villainous and the heroes are the ones that are the underdogs and the rebels. So it's interesting to see someone coming into power and being somewhere in that anti-hero to hero spectrum and trying to do good. And it doesn't at least appear to me that they're setting this up to be a tragedy. Boba's arc doesn't seem to be like a downward spiral arc like Anakin, where you follow him and then he gets power and then he's consumed by it. Whereas with Boba Fett, he's almost kind of like growing and developing as a character. And it seems like every time we see him on a chronological scale, he's there's more good aspects to his character. He starts out kind of as this confused child, and then he becomes the gun of the hired gun of the Empire and is completely on the other side. But then in The Mandalorian, you start seeing these redeemable qualities as he's helping out the heroes, and he has honor and like a code. And so they're really, I think they really are setting up that kind of benevolent dictator type thing. And I think that's just really fascinating because, again, it's not something that really has been done. And there's a lot of places that they could take this with the plot. Like, they could take it to a situation like, is this even sustainable? Like, is he going to be able to take over and stick to his code when he's ruling, or is he going to be forced to do things and have to make really tough decisions? Like that, or is he going to get taken out? Is he always going to be trying to do the right thing, but then there's going to be people who are willing to, play dirtier than him, and thus they're going to end up winning out in the end. And then he needs someone who's heroic, like Din, to come in and save him at the end of everything. Like, there's a lot of places they could go. So yeah, I just think it's really intriguing you know, what type of character study and what type of plots could be set up, especially within Star Wars, where this is kind of new. I feel like this is new territory, at least in the on-screen universe.
Mm-hmm. Ben, what about you? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking, you know, it's interesting the journey that Boba Fett's been on, not in universe per se, but out of universe, kind of through a story perspective of like he's introduced in Empire Strikes Back, and he takes Han Solo away. He really doesn't do anything, but people lashed onto that character and went, he's really cool. I like him. I like the way he looks and the air about him. And people got attached to him. And now we are, you know, 40 something years later. And, you know, now we have a show for that character. But the journey for that has not been linear. It's been this idea of like, and a lot of people didn't like the character. So like, oh, he's all looks and he's all bang and no buck. You know, there's nothing there for as a character. And then George Lucas came along and said, okay, I'm going to add some depth to this character. We get Attack of the Clones. Whether you loved it or not, you got more depth to that character. You got more of his backstory. And then you go into Clone Wars, which I think is probably the most dramatic, the most character development he's gotten so far in regards to giving him more backstory, giving him just more depth. And then now you have it here where this trailer opens with him saying, I'm not a bounty hunter. That's a big deal for a character that's pretty much been known as a bounty hunter the entire time. That's a big deal. And him kind of taking on, and he's still like, what is his play? Is it, obviously he is an anti-hero at this point, but I'm wondering, what does Robert Rodriguez and Jon Favreau, what are they trying to say with this? Because taking this character and trying to do something heroic, which is kind of like do something and say, hey guys, we don't have to fight each other. We don't have to kill each other. We can all just get rich. But yeah, they're still criminals. They're still doing bad stuff, still inflicting, you know, pain and suffering and stealing things. But, you know, even if it's kind of a Robin Hood steal from the rich, give to the poor type of thing, they're still maybe criminals. So I'm curious going forward, like what's Boba Fett thinks and how he's going to change as a character and how going into, you know, the season finale of Book of Boba Fett, like where is he going to be as a character? It's starting with, I'm not a bounty hunter. I'm a criminal kingpin or something. You know, that's a big change for Boba Fett. That's interesting.
Yeah. It is really interesting. You know, the Boba Fett character for a long time, as you were alluding to, Ben, was really just a killing machine. He was a blank slate who just came in and killed people. And over the years, they added layers to it, as you mentioned, with George, with the Attack of the Clones and the Clone Wars, and now with this, and even the books have done it, did it to a certain extent. Karen Travis was a big fan of the character and did some interesting things with him, but ultimately, nobody ever went in quite this direction of I'm going to unify the underworld in some sort of way, and I want to come back to that idea in just a second. But you mentioned his first line in the trailer, which is, I'm not a bounty hunter. And I found that interesting because the trailers for season 1 of the Mandalorian, what was the most commonly repeated line in those trailers? Bounty hunting is a complicated profession. Don't you agree? That's my Werner Herzog impression. That show, they really set up, here is a bounty hunter character. We're gonna be following this bounty hunter over the course of however long the series goes on, and I found it interesting that they were even doing a Boba Fett show when they already had The Mandalorian, and I thought they wouldn't do it because you already have a show about a guy wearing Mandalorian armor who's a bounty hunter. Why do you need another one? Why would you need another one? And then they announced, and I said, okay, great, let's get on board with this because let's do it. And I think what we're seeing here is they want to differentiate Boba from Din, and Boba wants to differentiate himself from not just, you know, the other bounty hunters, the other rabble that's out there, but from he wants to, you know, set up his own legacy. He wants to finally achieve something great, because I feel like the Boba Fett character for a long time was lost. And I mean that in universe, not out of universe, in universe. I think he was lost for a long time. Ever since Jango died, he didn't quite know what to do with himself. And I have a feeling that his time spent in the Sarlacc and then spent wandering the deserts of Tatooine afterwards might have given him a new sense of purpose. And that new sense of purpose now allows the show to move beyond the bounty hunter we knew, to move beyond the Boba Fett we knew, and let him stand on his own, let him be his own thing that is separate from his past, but also from the other show that is on the air right now. And he gets to be his own thing. And having him unify the underworld, again, his story is still kind of, mirroring Din's, right? Din is trying to unify the Mandalorians. We think eventually that's where that story will go. But Boba is trying to unify the underworld. And I think all of these factions are going to come together at some point. I think by the time The Mandalorian is done, by the time Book of Boba is done, by the time the Ahsoka show and Rangers, if that show happens, by the time all those are done, we're going to have a whole bunch of factions that will have to come together to fight Grand Admiral Thrawn in the finale event, whatever that winds up being, whether that's, Mandalorian season 6 or they give it some other name. And there was an idea that was kicked around for The Force Awakens that never got used. And I think it's in the Art of books, and it was in a lot of the leaks that were out at the time, back in the 2014, 2015 era. And that was that during the Starkiller base battle, Maz Kanata would show up again, leading a fleet of pirate ships, of underworld types. And that would help turn the tide in the Battle of Starkiller base. And that idea obviously didn't get used. You can kind of sort of see how it might have inspired what ultimately happens at the end of The Rise of Skywalker with an army of ships that aren't really an army showing up in the end. But in a battle against Grand Admiral Thrawn with the Mandalorians and the New Republic and some Jedi characters all on the same side working together, but they can't beat the Imperial Remnant or the Chiss Ascendancy or whatever Thrawn is at the helm of. Everything looks lost. And then you get Slave One coming out of hyperspace, leading an army of Black Sun and Crimson Dawn and the Pikes and Hutt syndicates and all of that stuff to help turn the tide because, Boba has cleaned up the underworld and now they're ready to, they don't want to lose what they've got. They have a good thing going now that the Empire is gone, and they don't want Thrawn coming in and setting up his new way and putting the boot on them.
And we can't ignore like the parallels to the Heir to the Empire and the Thrawn trilogy, the original Thrawn trilogy, the book trilogy. Basically, the same thing happens in there. You have Talon Karrde, and is kind of the linchpin in like defeating Thrawn. Is kind of gathers up all these smugglers that are like, we don't think the Empire coming back is a good idea, and they rise up against the Empire. Like, I think there may be a lot of influences from a lot of different areas. We know they've used concepts from films and used them in other films or TV shows or whatever. And we know they take cues from the books all the time. So like, it makes sense that the story's there. It's just like reshaping it into something new that's unexpected. And throwing in Boba Fett with his underworld army. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Now I'll be disappointed if that doesn't happen now that we've talked about it. It's gotta happen. Yep. It's gotta happen. But yeah, I like this honorable version of Boba Fett. I'm really intrigued to see more of that. I wouldn't be as excited for the show if we hadn't seen who he was in season 2 of Mandalorian and who we're seeing in this trailer. If he was just that blank slate killing machine, I'm not sure I'd be quite as into it.
I don't know why my whole life I always thought of Boba as a hero. Like, I don't know why. It's weird because it's like, I originally just knew him from the original trilogy. And in that, he's a bounty hunter. He's definitely not a hero. But I don't know. There was just something about his demeanor that kind of made you think he was his own person. I think him saying things like, he's worth a lot to me and things like that, You know, like you know, people rip on Boba Fett and say, you know, he's really overrated. The original trilogy didn't do enough to garner all of the fandom that he has. But when he did have a chance to speak, you know, it actually really meant something. They were not throwaway lines. There was a lot of personality that came through, and I think having his first appearance and most important appearance being in an Irving Kershner directed film, I think may have added that, because of course Kershner just took where the characters were at and just added 20% to everybody. So probably took Boba from a 0 to a 20 and made him just interesting enough there. So it's like, I always in my head, I kind of saw him as a maverick. I saw him as his own person. I didn't see him just as an automaton, you know, arm of the Empire like the stormtroopers. And so, yeah, so none of this surprises me. It just feels right to me. And I think probably Rob Rodriguez and Favreau must have felt the same way too with those films to go this route, writing this character.
And you have Filoni in there as well saying, well, this is what George was doing, so let's keep that going.
So, so George might have had some ideas about that as well.
I mean, we sorry to cut you off, Ben, but you know, Boba Fett was, you know, at one point expected to be a player in the Star Wars Underworld live action series that George and Rick McCallum and everybody was working on.
That Underworld series again,
and because we never got Star Wars 1313, we still don't fully know exactly what was going to go on with that, because that got repackaged once. Now we don't know. Are they just repackaging that in a different era now, or is that stuff just, you know, we just have to look at what does exist of Boba and, you know, the Clone Wars that wasn't produced to see kind of what that would be like. I don't know, you know, if that stuff has ever really been completely filtered out, that stuff that originated from George and then went through 1313. You know, it still might be out there to be utilized.
I would imagine they're reading those scripts. They're like pulling that stuff out and going like, okay, what's in here? What can we use? These are stuff. This is stuff from George Lucas that George Lucas signed off before he left.
This is a question. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to like write this on my arm and hope, like, you know, not shower until celebration, because I wanna like remember if I run into someone like Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau or like anybody in like the story group or anything. Quite a really good question would be, have you read those scripts, and do you know who has read those scripts? That'd be a fascinating question.
Well, you know, Saw Gerrera, right? That was a character that originated in Clone Wars, but was originally created for the live action series. And you know, Pablo Hidalgo revealed that on the Star Wars show way back in the Rogue One days. And it wouldn't surprise me if, you know, the people in top places at Lucasfilm, in key creative places at least, have access to those, if not the stories, if not the scripts themselves, but pretty decent summaries of what goes on in those stories, so that they can, you know what happened and use it if they want, or go against it if they want. You know, there's nothing that locks them into having to do it, other than the fact that it, you know, George Lucas created it, so you should at least give it a good hard
we
think.
can all agree at this point that George Lucas was a brilliant storyteller, but not 100% of his ideas were not always great. Sometimes it was good. I think the true promise of the Clone Wars was like, it was George Lucas backing it up, but it was also being run through all these great other creators like Dave Filoni, who were able to kind of interpret that and go like, oh yeah, that's great. And then, but George, you might want to back off that just a little bit. You know, I think that's what made those stories great. So like taking what's great or refining what's there would be awesome.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Boba's look a little bit here, because he looks great in this thing. He looks really good.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's really it's getting a little bit of scuff marks and stuff onto the the new armor, I think really helped it, because you know, when they put him in the new armor last season, or in Mandalorian season 2, I was sort of like, why mess with perfection?
Yep.
And there's the great theory that's out there that the reason they did that is because there's going to be some flashbacks in this show. and it's a quick, easy visual cue to the audience. The stuff where he's in the new armor, that's the present. The stuff where he's in the old armor, that's the past. Understand that, makes sense. But at the same time, wouldn't you want to put Boba Fett, a character who's famous for his costume in his show? But just putting a little bit of, roughing it up a little bit has really made that new costume grow on me, because it looked too clean. It looked too perfect last season. Again, makes sense in the story, but having it scuffed up a little bit. Now he looks like Boba Fett. And Tamora Morrison just seems at home in this role.
And he looks like his face looks so much better. They were like really trying to, I think Mandalorian was kind of trying to weather him and see that he had come out of the Sarlacc pit, but now he's like, I guess he's been in some Bacta or something, or he went to a Polynesian spa. He looks a lot better. Tim Morrison looks amazing. And he's kicking ass and looks great. And you have that just lightly scuffed, and you've got the scratch marks and all in the helmet. It's like, I like the clean look, but it was a bit weird to see Boba Fett like completely clean and no scuff marks. It's just not quite Boba Fett.
One of the coolest things about the original trilogy was the used universe concept in science fiction. It's not something we had seen a whole lot. A good amount of science fiction before that was very, futuristic, and everything was so clean and so precise. And then, Star Wars really goes for that used idea, that concept that everything's broken down and worn down and scuffed up and broken. And it made for some really great sets and some really great costumes. And Boba Fett's definitely the paragon of that. Again, I mean, that is one of the reasons why he's such a popular character, is just because of the armor and how it looks and how intricate that design was. I mean, there's so much props to all the designers there. I think, if I remember, didn't Joe Johnston have something to do with that?
He created the original design that got built upon.
So like, huge props to that, because like him and everybody that built on that, because it's like every single like square inch of his armor told a story. And you got the Wookiee sculpts hanging over it, and all the gadgets and just a big dent, and it's like everything was so iconic and so interesting. To have a lot of that stripped away, it was jarring. Like, that I definitely had the same reaction to you that you had, Dominic, when watching his return in The Mandalorian, was, this doesn't quite feel completely like him to me. Now we're getting in that direction where it's starting to feel more like the Boba Fett that we know, as we're starting to get more of that history re-injected into his outfit, and he's wearing his battles again. And that's super exciting. So they're going in a good direction with that. And I hope he's in a fight and he gets a dent and they just keep it there. I think that would be super cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you don't see anything. Din's armor doesn't have any paint on it, so there's nothing. It doesn't take any scars, which is, so they actually have an opportunity to like weather it as the series goes on with Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about Fennec Shand, kind of the only other named cast member in any of this, the only other named character or cast, the other main cast member, Ming-Na Wen's character, of course. I like what we see of Fennec in this. I like this character a lot. One thing I'm excited about in Book of Boba Fett is getting a chance to expand on her, because so far she's starting to just sort of hit the same notes over and over again. She's a sniper. She's kind of sinister. She's tough, which is all good. But I'd like to just know. I'd like to start to learn a little bit more about her. I'd like to see some other facets of her character, because what we've seen in season 2 and season 1 works really well. What we saw in Bad Batch worked really well, and I think you have a chance here where she's the number 2 character on the show to really build her out some more, and continue to make her one of the great underworld characters of Star Wars.
What I'm interested in is seeing, this trailer made me think about the idea of, okay, so she got saved by Boba Fett, and she is his buddy now. She's his right hand woman, which is
That's
great.
that's how they describe it. Like he comes into a scene, he's like yeah. You either live or you die. Here's my buddy.
Will you
But
be my
like
buddy?
she's like honor bound to him. She saved my life, so I'm gonna stick with him. But how much? I mean, she's supposed to be like one of the most ruthless killers, like ruthless things. How much honor does she possess? I think a big twist in this show coming up, probably maybe not this season, maybe not next season, it's going to be Fennec going rogue, probably, and probably it'll be revealed that she's been playing him the entire time. I don't think she's 100% committed to Boba Fett. I think, given the chance, she will betray him.
So this brings up a very fascinating question, and this is actually happening. Is they're developing her character simultaneously in different timelines, which is really fascinating because, she was introduced initially to us in this Mandoverse, and now we're going to get a lot more of her prospectively in Book of Boba Fett. But then she was also introduced, like, what would that have been, like 20 years earlier in Bad Batch?
Right.
And then there's a lot of character stuff going on with her and like Omega, and like, so it's interesting. It's like we have these questions about her character, like, is she good? Is she bad? Is she really evil and she's gonna end up playing everybody, or is she actually gonna be the good guy in the end? It's kind of like a misdirection. We think she's gonna be bad, but then she ends up being the hero. Like, we don't know, and it's fascinating because we don't also know what timeline and what series those revelations about our character are going to come in. And with Dave Filoni having his hand in both, will be a situation where we get little clues in both, and then it kind of just happens almost at the same time. That would be fascinating. This is very interesting following her character.
It would be really cool. I wonder if she might, we've been wondering if Omega and Boba will ever meet. I wonder if she'll be like the connective thing that brings the two of them together in one show or another, some way, somehow. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. What other standouts are there for you guys in the trailer? What else jumped out at you? What else has got you excited for the Book of Boba Fett?
We got Jessica Biel. No, wait. What's her name? Not Jessica Biel. The other Biel.
Jennifer Beals.
Jennifer Beals. I knew, I was like, Jessica Biel doesn't sound 100% right. And I'm like, no, wait, that's the girl from Seventh Heaven. That's a throwback. Jennifer Beals is in it, which is interesting. It's crazy seeing her again because I know her from like the L Word from like 10 years, 15 years ago. So that's interesting. She doesn't look like she's aged a day. She looks great as a Twi'lek. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that. And yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Ben, what else? What else has got you going?
The fact that they changed the Lucasfilm logo to Boba Fett colors, that was really cool.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Yeah, that was good. I'm surprised you didn't say the fact that there's a title card that says Underworld on it. I thought you should be.
That should be our new cover photo on Facebook.
It should be. Yeah, should be taking a victory lap.
Whose job is that?
Jeez.
I'm really excited to see more of Jabba's palace. Like, for some reason, that, like, just the shot where you see Boba and Fennec in the like upstairs part looking out at Tatooine, I'd never considered the fact that there's an upstairs to Jabba's palace. Obviously there is.
You never played Battlefront.
No, I haven't. There's
a lot to that map. It's big.
Yeah. I find that really exciting that that we could, just see more of it. And Ben, you mentioned the Tatooine shot, the big like sweeping view of the city. That's really interesting. Cool. I know it's sort of the cool opinion to say, Tatooine, we've had too much Tatooine. But I love Tatooine. I love stories on Tatooine. I want to see more of Tatooine. And so just the opportunity to explore that planet some more. And both unfamiliar places like this new city, it seems like, and familiar places like Jabba's palace. Just they have me intrigued.
Now, we do. I mean, it should be pretty obvious that, scene 1 of the Book of Boba Fett, after he sits down in the chair after the post credits prologue of the show, he's got to order the band. He's got to go. He's got to go get the band because he's got to liven that place up and get some people in there. And we know from those iconic shots of Boba Fett from Return of the Jedi, that's why he's there. I mean, he's done his job. He's brought
he's
Han
just
Solo.
roofing.
Yeah, he's just hanging out. He could be anywhere in the galaxy, but he chooses to be there because of that band.
Can you imagine? Opening scene, Boba Fett's in his chair across the room, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as that character.
Yes.
Playing his guitar, his lightsaber microphone and the guitar. They're all there.
Everybody.
I think I would die right there. I think that would just be amazing.
That'd be terrific.
I love. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
No. I didn't want to change the subject, but I do. I love this whole cityscape that they show. And I specifically love the whole idea of the fact that something I never thought of is like I've always heard, literally all my life, of Bestine, the city of Bestine, and like, what is that? I know. Apparently, is supposed to be the capital city of Tatooine. Oh. And so that's what's got me the idea of like, okay, this giant city you see in this giant crater, this could be Bestine. And it makes sense for the story that maybe Boba Fett's like going in the city going like, hey, just for the record, I'm in charge now. Hey, it's me, Boba Fett. I'm the one in charge now. That's very fascinating.
So wait, am I crossing my wires here, or was that where the person who kidnapped Rey was from?
No, you're thinking of Bastoon.
Bastoon, okay. I'm like, that sounds familiar. I've heard that before.
I think there also is a planet called Bestine, either Legends or canon.
Of course there is. Way too many. And then that sounds almost like Bespin. So let's get a little more creative with our names.
Real weird. Hopefully they can kind of clear it up now and go like, there's a city. I mean, it's not like there's a lot of different, same place names. There's New York. All this. I mean, like, it's very confusing. Mm-hmm. But I like that idea. I also like the Ithorian we get, the Hammerhead.
Yeah,
things.
Cool.
And a lot of people are speculating that it's Doc Ondar. I like that idea. I don't really think it doesn't really look like him to me, but it's just a different time period.
Do we know if Maul Nadon is still alive? Is there any canon stuff with him?
I don't know.
I know Doc Ondar is mentioned in Solo. They say that he's on Voss's ship.
Yeah.
It's like, you've been talking to Doc. Like he's there. So like he's got ties. He's got some shady ties. Let's put it that way. He's not just selling junk on Batu.
Yeah. I'd like that.
I just want to see them do gardening, because isn't that the lore for that character, that they come from a planet that they're like vegetarians and they just tend gardens? Like I heard that in some source book like 10 years ago.
I didn't know that one, but I like that fact.
I've never heard that before in my life. That's amazing.
I like that fact. That feels like a fact that should remain a fact.
But I like that he's got the little translator thing that they had. Like there's a Ithorian that Steven Stanton voices in Clone Wars. It's on Hutt. He's got that thing on. You can kind of hear his like garbled voice underneath, like the turning into the basic. That's really cool. I love them doing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good stuff.
And there's so many different shots. They're like, okay, what is all this? And it looks like they have like a table set up like in the middle of Jabba's palace. Like I was trying to figure out, is this a different room? No, it's the room. It's the Jabba's palace room over the Rancor pit.
I love we're gonna get another Star Wars dinner party. Where just the last one didn't go very well, and I think that this one likely will not go well either. I also like that they've kept the naked Gamorrean costume from season 2 of The Mandalorian. For some reason, this is where Boba's going to be perhaps a little bit crueler than Jabba in some ways, because Jabba let his Gamorreans wear clothes, whereas Boba is flanked by 2, at the very least, shirtless Gamorreans for some reason.
I mean, it's Tatooine summer.
I mean, yeah, there you go. It's a hot Gamorrean summer.
Yes.
Something. Jabba. I wanted to talk about Jabba because he gets talked about a lot.
Yeah.
In this trailer, and he's one of those iconic Star Wars characters, and just the idea of a Hutt in general, that I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen more of with all of the new stuff that's come out, and especially given how reverent some of the new stuff has been to the old stuff. I'm surprised that a Hutt hasn't made its way in there, or that Jabba specifically hasn't made its way in there.
Okay, question time. Mm-hmm. Where the hell is Stinky?
Hey,
where is he?
Right.
He's
the heir to the throne. All right, Boba Fett stole his throne. Where is he?
I want to see it. I want Stinky the Hutt to show up in this thing. I genuinely, if Rada could show up, I'm on board. Like,
wait a minute. What if Ahsoka comes into this show, and then you have Ahsoka and Rada reunited, and then all of a sudden the Clone Wars movie is the most important backstory in Star Wars.
That's Dave Filoni just flipping off everybody, going, "Oh, you hated my movie. You hated my movie. Well, now it's essential. Now you have to watch it.
Filler content, my ass."
He's like, I'm in charge now, and I know what's important. Yeah. Well, okay. So, that is an interesting question, because Bib Fortuna seems to be running the show in that Mando post-credit scene, right? He's the guy that's in charge, and Boba takes him out. He was Jabba's number 2. So he likely knew where the bodies were buried when it came to Jabba the Hutt, so to speak. And he probably could have very easily, sent old Stinky away. Sent him away somewhere else, or locked him up somewhere.
Boarding school.
And maybe Boba will an interesting episode of the show could be Boba wanting to secure his place as chief guy in the underworld, taking out the competition, or taking out someone who might have a claim to his throne, and tracking down a teenaged Hutt might be a way to solidify that. I guess Rada might even be older. He'd be more like he'd be an adult. So it wouldn't be.
This is 23 years after the Clone Wars?
Something like that, yeah.
24 around there.
Yeah.
And
so
Rada,
he's in his 20s.
Yeah.
The millennial.
Yeah. Yeah, he's off eating avocado toast and making TikToks, and maybe he could be like that Hutt in the Tatooine Rhapsody thing with the the hairdo and stuff.
But Joel in the comments says that apparently Vader killed the entire Hutt Council in the comics. Like, they're not around anymore, all those guys.
Yeah,
but it would make sense, like, even if for some reason they don't use Rhoda, or he's not in the picture for some reason, it seems to reason that, like, there would be some Hutts left around to go, hey, Mr. Human Man in Mandalorian armor, that's not your seat.
Yeah. Well, and it might be interesting if Boba were to try and track down Rada, go after Jabba's son, for him to find, the Hutt formerly known as Stinky. And for him to say, you know what? I don't want to be underworld crime lord. I don't want to be like my old man. I want to be my own. I want to be my own Hutt. I want to do my own thing. I don't want to. Boba, that seat is yours. Take it. I'm not interested in it. That would be kind of an interesting, fun twist on it that would still allow Dave Filoni his little moment of, sticking his tongue out at the fans who
and then he becomes a bounty hunter. And then he becomes a bounty hunter, and the roles are completely reversed.
Yeah.
And how is he going to fit into that Mandalorian armor is going to be interesting. I hope don't kill Rhoda, please. I can't go through another brutal Hutt murder like what happened with Zero. I can't do it, guys.
What a world.
The betrayal. I hope we see a Hutt in this thing. Genuinely, I want to see a Hutt, whether it's Jabba,
I want to see how they actually do it. Will they go full out? Will they go for like a big puppet? Will it be kind of CGI? Will it be something in the between?
Oh, it's only a Hutt if you have one guy hired to just do the tail.
Yeah. and one guy to do the eyes. You need both of them. You need both of them.
I love it. Real quick, another theory for you. I'll just throw this one out there. This is not my theory. This is one that 1,000 people have already said. It's later on in the trailer. There is a shot of Tusken Raiders that are in a sandstorm.
Yeah.
And the theory is that this is a flashback. This is perhaps the flashback to when Boba gets maybe ejected from the Sarlacc pit. Maybe Tuskens find him. Maybe they bring him, nurse him back to health. Maybe that's why he has a gaffy stick, because he got in good with the Tuskens and they helped him. And they're like, oh, this guy is like badass. He survived a Sarlacc pit. So like we can't even, like, we stay away from Sarlacc. We're scared of him. But he survived it, so he must be like a god. So like that would be interesting.
Well, and if anybody would know how to escape a Sarlacc or help someone escape the Sarlacc, wouldn't it be the Tuskens? I mean, the way that the Mandalorian has recontextualized the Tusken Raiders has been fascinating. And it's made it clear that they have a deep connection to Tatooine. They have a deep connection to their homeland. And they had their own ideas of how to take out a crate dragon. We saw that in season 2. And it probably was a way that worked. It's just, because it's a TV episode, the crate dragon they were dealing with was the biggest crate dragon of all time. And that's why they needed Cobb Vanth and his people to help them out. But they've also been able to survive out in the desert. We see that they were on Tatooine long before anybody else was. And so if anybody would know how to deal with these creatures that attack Tatooine, or that are native to Tatooine, then it would be them. And so maybe Boba it isn't Boba coming out of the Sarlacc on his own and being worshipped as a god. Maybe it's other people, it's the Tuskens helping him escape, being the ones to get him out of there, and them being the ones to kind of nurse him back to health.
What if Boba gets eaten by the Sarlacc, then that crate dragon eats the Sarlacc? It's like a double escape.
It's always a bigger dragon.
Yeah. So in addition to Boba Fett and Fennec Shand, what other familiar characters do you guys think are likely to appear in this, or could potentially appear in this? I threw out Jabba a few minutes ago as a potential flashback character. We've talked about Stinky. Who else would you guys like to see crop up in this thing?
Well, Solo ruined the amazing chance of having Aura Singh show up in this show. So thank you, Lawrence Kasdan. But I
think you can. I think you can blame John for that one. I think that was more of a John Kasdan. I don't think I don't think Larry had heard of Aura Singh. He was the guy that at San Diego Comic-Con a few years ago, somebody asked about Darth Plagueis. He was like, "Who are you talking about? Darth Vegas?" So I don't think Larry was thinking, I want to get the guy from Aura. I want to get Aura Singh, the character from that one frame of the Phantom Menace. That's my Lawrence Kasdan impression.
Well, thank you, John, for that. So really, there's kind of two ways that this could go. No, there's three. So the first way is it can continue with the Underworld thing, and you can see kind of just more kind of like bounty hunters, like maybe like someone like Dengar could show up, or Bosk. That would be interesting. Cad Bane, maybe. So I think that would be interesting. The other way that it could go is they could try to tie it more into the whole Mandalorian thing and start bringing in people like Sabine, maybe, because it's kind of like. There's 3 different spots where she could make her appearance if she does. Like, she could show up first in the Ahsoka show. She could show up first with Din and the main Mandalorian show, or maybe Boba is her first interaction in live action. There's lots of options for that. So that's interesting. And then the kind of third option is Boba's a clone. What we haven't seen much of in this era is the remnants of the clones. Boba's the last one, and that we've seen. So, but we know that, there might still be some alive at this point. And so you've got, perhaps someone like Rex, or maybe even a clone who we don't know by name, might be introduced in the show, who's older, who can kind of almost be like a mentor to Boba. I think that would be super, super cool. And then, of course, the obvious one is at some point Omega's going to show up. We just don't know when. I mean, that you just can't not do that. If you have the Alpha clone and the Omega clone, you cannot have them also bookend from their origin to their end of their story.
I think Boba shows up in Bad Batch before Omega shows up in Book of Boba. That's my thought, but I've been wrong about things before.
That
I
makes
will
more
repeat
sense. I agree.
the infamous meme. Why not both?
Why not both? Yeah.
At the same time, at the same week, like when Bad Batch and Book of Boba Fett are playing at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think having Boba meet a clone would be really interesting. And there's been talk about maybe Captain Rex should be in the Ahsoka show. So maybe instead of, the Sabine making her grand entrance in Book of Boba, what if Captain Rex were to? And I think that could be an interesting conversation between Boba and one of his clones, because I figure the show has got to at least address the fact that Boba is still grappling with his father's legacy. And part of his father's legacy is the clone army, and the fact that there were at one point millions of people who looked like him out there. And they didn't shy away from the fact that Boba is a clone in Mando season 2. Bo-Katan kind of threw it in his face in the finale. In the episode before that, they had kind of a throwaway gag about how he didn't want to go into an Imperial place because they would recognize his face. They haven't shied away from that. So it seems likely that that's something that could come up. And having him have to confront the fact that there are more people out there who look just like him and look just like his father would be really, really interesting. So yeah, maybe it's Captain Rex. Maybe one of the villains of the week could be a clone that's survived the war and decided to become a bounty hunter too, or become some kind of crime lord. I think that could be Crosshair. I'm because the Bad Batch is still on. I'm not betting on big Bad Batch crossovers, but ooh, that would be cool.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a crossover; it'd be a crosshair over, so it's fine.
Okay, here's two very realistic options for me for cameos. Cameos. They could be happening this season. I think one, following up with what Chris was saying, like Bosk. I think very likely. We've already got Trandoshans. Deep Baker is literally right there. They can get him to voice him. It would be very faithful. And there's a great camaraderie there. I think you've saw in Clone Wars, like Bosk seemed to actually take care of Boba and was they were buddies for a while. But also there's probably a lot of water under the bridge since then. So are they friends? Are they not friends? I love the idea of that. Also, Highsinger, the droid. From the Bounty episode, because there's that great concept art from the 1313 game, may it rest in peace, of Boba, adult Boba with Highsinger, as if they stayed together and they were buddies and they worked together in the game. So I'm there's a history there. It wasn't just one episode of Clone Wars. There's a history there. Maybe Highsinger's out there somewhere. I love that. And just a droid sidekick they may want to avoid having a droid sidekick after Din and IG-11, but who knows? Okay, so now that we've got the obvious answers that could happen, I'm going to throw in something that's absolutely insane that will never ever happen, but here we go. Mace Windu. One-armed Mace Windu. What if we find out? What if that's the end of the season? Season 2 is setting up Boba Fett going I have to kill this guy. Finally, I get a chance. For
some reason, Ben, Jon Favreau strikes me as if there's anybody out there who would do that, it's him. I don't know why. I don't feel that way about Robert Rodriguez. I don't feel that way about Dave Filoni. But for some reason, Jon Favreau strikes me as the one who'd go, yeah, screw it, let's do it. Someone call up Sam Jackson.
Jon Favreau is the one guy on set that has Sam Jackson's phone number in his phone. You know he does.
So Sam would have filmed Revenge of the Sith in 2003, 2004. That was about 18 years ago. So we're within about 5 years of where he would be with natural aging in the real world. So, I mean, it might be pushing it a little bit to have him, return with one arm. But, there could be a clone. There could be a clone of Mace Windu, because, of course, he has force powers that no other Jedi has. And he's got that Vapad stuff. So he would be an interesting specimen to clone, because you would be able to have him that being would be able to skirt the line between the light side and the dark side, be able to use extreme force powers that are based on passion without them, becoming all evil and wanting to control everything and sabotage and take over. So he would be a good one to clone, and he's very powerful. Lots of midi-chlorians there. Huge M count. One of the biggest ones. So clone Mace Windu, Ace Windu. And then Boba Fett sees him. Ooh, he needs some revenge. He needs some revenge right there. Ooh.
Sure. Why not?
Always your weekly Super Shadow reading. There is a 0 chance of that one.
I'm sorry. There's not 0. There is not 0 chance of anything not happening at this point. All right. We had freaking Luke Skywalker show up last season. All right. Nobody thought that was going to happen. So,
but Ben, I was spelling 0 with an H.
Okay. It's even worse. That's even worse.
That's over the head. Over the head.
Insulting.
That's what's great is spelling jokes said out loud. That's the best kind of comedy.
Oh man.
What was I was gonna say? Okay, so here are a couple from me, because I feel like I have to answer this.
Of course.
You guys have run through a bunch of great ones. All the bounty hunters. I expect to see all the bounty hunters in here at some point. But someone I would really like to see get another shot in Star Wars, and someone I think could work in this show. I want Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
I never understood why in the books they created Han and Boba as mortal enemies. That always seemed weird to me. It just sort of seemed like they took one scene in the movies and extrapolated that to be their entire relationship. And even then, it's just the fact that Boba caught Han that built out this entire relationship. This idea of them as adversaries, as mortal enemies. So I don't necessarily need that. But if we're dealing with the Underworld, but you also wanted to have a little bit of a tie to the New Republic, and think about it, at the time that they were writing this show, they were thinking they were going to make a New Republic, a Rangers of the New Republic show. Maybe they were thinking there could be some crossover there, and someone who I think would be the perfect choice to do that, to make that connection between the Underworld and the New Republic is Han Solo. And I want it to be Alden. I don't want any more of these deep fake characters. I want Alden Ehrenreich. You have him. He's great. Use him. Don't, and I don't think you're likely to get Harrison Ford to come back and do the same thing that Mark Hamill did. Maybe he will. I mean, he came back a lot, but I feel like it'd be easier to get Alden, and I'd like to see Alden.
So it's my take. I do not think they're going to do that. I think they're going to be scared of it. And there's 2 reasons. There's 3. One reason is just logistically, it kind of makes, it's one thing to have somebody portray a character when they're younger, but to have that same person portray, Harrison Ford within Harrison Ford's zone, where it should be Harrison Ford from A New Hope to technically Rise of Skywalker. like that kind of would kind of like throw it off a little bit, unless it's like a flashback of young Boba and young Han. Then yes, that would be fine.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want him in the current.
Let me just be clear about this. I don't think this is happening. This is just my dream scenario.
Yeah.
This is specifically what I would like to see.
Yeah, and then number 2, and it sucks, but I think they're just going to stay away from a lot of that stuff because of how the movie did.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3, I think they're just they're too into the deep fake stuff now, with the reaction that Leia and Tarkin got and the reaction that Luke got. I just think that they're gonna keep going to that well until it's dry.
Yeah. Like I agree with 2 out of 3 of those. I think Favreau absolutely loves this deep fake thing, and I think he in particular wants to push it. He's a tech guy, absolutely. I think he's interested in it. This is the guy who made Lion King and Jungle Book, right, which are essentially deep fakes with animals. And then you have and then the second point, which is the idea of the fact that Solo didn't do very well, so they'll shy away from that. Unfortunately, that is a line of thinking that people would follow who are in charge of making those decisions, and you would hope that the creatives would be allowed to say, no, we want to do this, so let's do it. But if it's the people who want big money coming in, they may not make that call. The first point, I understand that other people feel that way, but I don't feel that way at all. I think I don't like the deep fakes. Like, I really didn't like the deep fake Luke. I don't mind the Tarkin one. I like the Tarkin and Leia ones, all right, and the Luke one in Rise of Skywalker was fine as well. But I didn't like the one in Mandalorian at all, and I would have much rather have had them recast the role and give it to Sebastian Stan or somebody else, And I think you have Alden, so why not use him? You've already cast him there, and yes, technically, only Harrison Ford should play Han Solo in that era. That's what he would look like technically, but I don't look at Star Wars as literal history. I look at it as something else. And I'd rather, and just because of my feeling about the deep fake stuff, I'd rather just sort of go, yeah, that's a little inconsistent, and just roll with it. And to me, it's no different than going live action, cartoon, live action. It's roughly, to me, it's the same. But I know not everybody else feels that way.
Yeah,
so
I think
Matt Lanter,
maybe,
Hayden Christensen.
Exactly.
I think their best option to keep everybody happy is just to sidestep it altogether and not do Han, but get Emilia Clarke as Kira and bring.
And that was going to be my second one. Is my dream for a reveal at some point in the middle of the season is that the big bad for this season, or the antagonist, we won't even call her the big bad, but the antagonist who is going up against Boba and all of this.
Mother of Crate Dragons.
The mother of Crate Dragons, the Queen of Crimson Dawn. It's Kira.
Well, I love the idea that those dudes that show up with the big red shields, that were in the big red suits, perhaps could be Crimson Dawn. Just saying.
Yeah. I want it to happen. I'd love it to happen, but for the same reason as one of the reasons that Alden wouldn't happen, which is the Solo of it all. Seems unlikely, but if they wanted an antagonist and they wanted something that would grab people's attention, boy, that would do it. Getting Emilia Clarke back in there.
More connections, more stuff, just, crossing over of things, throwing Kira in the mix would raise some eyebrows. Let's put it that way.
And I think, I think that they probably would view Solo as like Han Solo's movie. So I can't really see them scrapping other stuff from it over that if it had nothing to do with the kind of rebooty nature of the character.
Yeah.
I would hope they wouldn't be thinking about that anyway. I mean, we know they have to be. There has to be corporate people somewhere in the pipeline talking about numbers and things. This didn't do well, so we don't want to bring this character in. But hopefully they aren't. Hopefully they're like, this is a cool character. I want to do something more with this. She would fit well into this era. Let's do that.
John Kasdan gets to write an episode of one of these.
I hope if there's those, if there really are those, business people that are just sort of, trying to stop it. I hope Jon Favreau walks up to them, takes their portfolio and says, you know what I think of these? And then he deep fakes it away. I don't know what that means. But yeah. Hopefully there's a room for some kind of solo connections in there, and I know I'm seeing in our live chat lots of people are bringing up the fact that Kira's in the comic books these days, and maybe that's a sign that they're not done with the character. I hope that's the case. I hope that what's being done in the comics is being done with intention to set something up. But my gut instinct is that. If they're doing stuff with the character in the comics, it's because they don't have plans for her on screen.
Yeah,
and so that's just my gut feeling. Again, I love being wrong about things. I love it. I want to be wrong about so many things, but that's just my feeling. So. Anyways, anything else from the trailer, or shall we move on and get to some of this other news that's out there?
More news.
There's a lot of stuff. We could probably talk about the trailer all night. I think we've discussed the big points.
I mean, we've done about an hour on a trailer that, in all honesty, is less than 2 minutes. Like, let's be real. When you take out it, I mean, it's less than 2 minutes, even with all the title cards. You take out the title cards, it's less than 90 seconds. Like, it's a short trailer. They call it an official trailer. It's a teaser trailer. Let's call it spade a spade.
I was trying to figure that out earlier. I'm like, is this the teaser or the trailer? And I'm like, okay, it says trailer.
Yeah, I think this is the only trailer we're getting. I think we'll get some special look stuff here and there. And I think we might see something, as we'll talk about in a minute, at the Disney Plus Day. But in terms of trailers, I think that was it. I think that's all we're getting.
Yeah,
that's all we're getting.
Maybe.
So, but yeah, it was fun, and it set the stage nicely for a show that we're all very, very much looking forward to, and we may have some more news about it very, very soon. We'll talk about what's going to be revealed at the Disney Plus Day in a second. But first, I want to talk about this other rumor that's out there that is very, very exciting. We still don't have a video version of the "I Heard a Rumor."
I keep forgetting about that
intro. So we'll get one. We'll get one there eventually. But this story comes from Cinelinx, and they are reporting that a new animated series is in the works, and it's featuring and focused on Darth Maul.
Whoa.
So this comes from, again, Jordan Mason at Cinelinx. He writes, according to multiple sources... Let me start that again. According to multiple sources, it looks like a new Star Wars animated series is already in the works that could fill in some Crimson Dawn / Darth Maul gaps. I know we're all still recovering from the Book of Boba Fett trailer. Ain't that the truth, Jordan? But I had some information come in that I thought would be worth discussing. About a month ago, I heard from a source that voice recording was underway for a new, as yet unannounced, Star Wars animated series. This, along with a second source, informed me that familiar Star Wars voice actors D. Bradley Baker, Matt Lanter, and Sam Witwer were recording ... something. I couldn't pin down what they were recording, whether it was for another Bad Batch season or something else, so I just kind of let it sit and was hoping to get more information later. Thankfully, that's come in the form of a pair of independent sources who tell me that Darth Maul will be the focus of a new animated series. While they both mentioned Maul, one source specifically mentioned that it was about his time running Crimson Dawn before Solo: A Star Wars Story. I've even heard that Paul Bettany is expected to come back and voice the character Dryden Voss, a character he's already mentioned he's interested in returning to. Off and on for years now, I've heard that Lucasfilm has been keen to get some sort of Darth Maul series up and running in live action. For various reasons, however, they haven't been able to get it going. As such, this new animated series seems to be what they've decided to go with instead. It lines up with having heard about Crimson Dawn-related plans for a while now, an organization I'm sure will continue to pop up in various Star Wars projects. I wonder if Jordan's hinting at a little bit of something there with that last sentence. And maybe he's thinking, maybe he knows something. Maybe he's heard something about Crimson Dawn, where else Crimson Dawn might be showing up. But a new Darth Maul animated series. Chris, over to you first this time. What do you think?
I'll take it. Like, obviously I want a I would love a live action show to tell that story because they can, because it's, it's close enough to the prequels and Solo in the production real life time that, they can get all the correct actors in at their ages and it makes sense. So like, that would be awesome. But at the same time, like, I really want to see that dark time animated universe expanded beyond the Bad Batch. Like, I love the Bad Batch, but I don't want all the stories in the dark times that are animated to be about the Bad Batch. I want way more than that. And so to have a dark time show that focuses on villains and on Maul would be like super awesome. And I'm thinking to how the Clone Wars were structured and how you kind of went back and forth in some of the seasons, like especially season 3 and season 4, where you had some episodes that were the clone episodes, and then you had those dark episodes with the Night Sisters and Savage Opress and Asajj Ventress and Darth Maul and Sidious, and those were awesome episodes and really innovative and some of the best Star Wars, in my opinion, that's ever been made. And so the idea of having that storyline following the heroes and perhaps giving hints at the beginnings of the rebellion with the Bad Batch would be paired so well with a show that focused on some of the villains and the darker things and the underworldly things that are happening during that era. And, if they cross over, that would be cool, but they don't have to. You can have separate storylines going on at that time that are kind of separate. And so, yeah, I think that makes up for having something else like that with that incredible animation, with that incredible team, and that incredible voice cast. I think makes up for the fact that we may never get more films and series in that particular era with those characters from Solo.
Ben, what do you think about this?
It is very interesting idea. Like, again, it's the messaging of the sort of the point of these things. I think the more I consume content, the older I get, the more I kind of like, okay, what is the point of this? What are you trying to say? And I think especially Star Wars is something that I have a lot of reverence for in regards to, like, it needs to mean something, needs to say something. And as we're talking about earlier with Book of Boba Fett, it's like, okay, you're focused on essentially a villainous character, someone who's been characterized as a villain this entire time. How do you change it up? And obviously we're going in the direction of, like, Book of Boba Fett becoming taking more of an honorable role, perhaps even becoming a hero in a way. I don't see that happening for Maul. I very much, it's really cool. I'm glad they're really seem to be committed to Crimson Dawn, Dryden Voss, Maul, this mythology around this new organization, this new criminal organization in the galaxy that is very cool. Having a misplaced Sith Lord start a criminal organization that, comes about and then gets taken over by, a young woman who's awesome and then goes into hiding and comes back. Like, the whole mythology that they're creating for this is really fascinating. I love Crimson Dawn and I hope they do more, but, how do you do that with, like, focusing on Maul and, doing all that? And what's going to be? Is he going to be the antagonist of someone else, or is he going to be the anti-hero? And how do you make Maul an anti-hero when he's a very bad guy? He's a very bad guy, and so is Dryden Voss. He's big, angry. They're both angry, bad dudes, all right? I love them both, but they're bad dudes. So that's very fascinating. But, like, doing this, and hopefully, I've been assuming for a while that Crimson Dawn would come into the Bad Batch, that would be something that would be picked up on. There's very clear connections there at the end of Clone Wars with Trace and Rafa and Ahsoka, crossing paths with Maul, and Crimson Dawn already being a thing, Dryden Voss being in the picture. All the stuff's there. The pieces are there. They just have to put it together. And I love it. I'm just curious how are they going to mix all this up? And could we be seeing like a post Clone Wars kind of what they're doing with Mandalorian, but multiple shows kind of crossing over and building up to something big, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting if they sort of the same way that they're building up the Mando verse to do something similar with the animated stuff. For me, I'll be honest, when I saw the headline about what this show would be, I was really excited. And then as I read into what it was going to be, I got less excited. I'm intrigued by it, but to me, the Crimson Dawn story I want to see is the one that was teased at the end of Solo. And seeing Maul go from where he is at the end of Clone Wars to where he is in Solo, I'm sure there's interesting stories to be told there, but that's not my first choice for a Maul Crimson Dawn storyline. And if they could do some sort of interesting thing where they set up, the first season is, before Solo, and then the second season is after Solo. I think that would be interesting. I think that'd be really cool. But ultimately, it all depends on how they tell the story, how they execute it. That's the ultimate thing. Is if it's good, then any issues I have right now are moot. But in terms of like, it's so close to being exactly what I want. It's so close.
Right.
Just move it a few years back in the timeline and I'm there. And not that I'm not there for this, but it's so close. But I'm as I said, I'm intrigued. Building out, like you said, Chris, building out that Dark Times era, having, not one but two shows kind of pick up right where Clone Wars left off with Bad Batch, and now this is really interesting and really exciting. And I would love it if this show literally picked up 6 months after Revenge of the Sith, 6 months after Maul burst out of that Republic cruiser and went from there. And the more stories that take place in that immediate aftermath of the Clone Wars, and especially ones that feature characters like Maul, or in supporting roles with Rex and Trace and Rafa, like we saw in Bad Batch, I'm really sitting here going, geez, Ahsoka's got to be out there somewhere. I want more Ahsoka in this time period. I know they got the show and the Mandoverse and all that stuff, and that'll be great. But post Clone Wars, pre-Rebels Ahsoka, that's the character who I'd really like to see an in-between story from at this point. But this will be cool. This will be cool.
I will commend their restraint with Ahsoka, because I fully expected her to show up in season 1 of Bad Batch, and that was.
I think everybody did.
I think it was kind of shocking. Just go with that, like, wow, she didn't show up. There was no it didn't end with a big Ahsoka cameo, which I like. I love Ahsoka, but I'm glad they didn't go that far. I like the way Bad Batch did it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there we are. That's the rumor. Now, you might be asking yourself, when will we see this? When will this be announced? When might we get our first little tease of that? Well, we have another story, another rumor. And this one comes from Star Wars Newsnet, and they are reporting on what we will see on Disney Plus Day, which is next Friday. And that's November 12th. So this is what's coming up. Apparently, and this comes from Star Wars Newsnet, the moment we have all been waiting for is just over a week away. We were told that the first teaser trailer for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series will debut on Disney Plus Day. The series wrapped filming a couple of months ago, so they have footage. They can have footage ready by this point, and that'll make sense. And especially for the most hyped Star Wars project that is, as they put it, universally the most hyped and anticipated. So an Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer, an Obi-Wan Kenobi teaser, that's cool. That's good.
Yeah.
But it's not the only thing. Continuing to read from Star Wars Newsnet, our source told us that we should also expect a sizzle reel for Andor. You might remember a clip, or you might remember the clip that debuted last December during the Disney Investors Day webcast, and it sounds like another might be coming. This is a bit of a surprise, as we figured we would at least have a teaser trailer for the series by now. So we'll be waiting. So we'll have to see what they bring to the table for the spy-based Rogue One prequel. So a sizzle reel, behind-the-scenes reel, sort of like maybe the Rogue One behind-the-scenes reel that they revealed at Celebration London all those years ago. That's my sort of read on it from what Newsnet says. But that's not it either. Continuing to read from Newsnet, Ben's mind is blown.
But wait, there's more. I'm just going Bill Mays on this thing.
He says, Newsnet says, we were also told that behind-the-scenes sizzle reels for both the Book of Boba Fett and the Return of the Mandalorian would be shown.
Oh,
a behind-the-scenes reel for Fett makes sense, as we just got the trailer. It seems a bit early for a sizzle reel on season 3 of The Mandalorian, being that it started filming just a little over a month ago. So I'm skeptical of that one, but would welcome it. So a little bit more analysis from Newsnet there on what seems possible or likely. And then finally, this is their last bit that they think we can expect. As far as new Star Wars project announcements, our source told us that we can definitely expect them, and they believe that a new canon animated series could be announced on Disney Plus Day as well. They didn't specify what, but they were told that a fully ordered animated series will release in 2013. Or 2013, Jesus.
Wait, what?
No, that was 8 years ago. 2023. Speaking of animated, we were told that they will be showing a teaser of The Bad Batch Season 2 as well.
Nice.
So, just to run through it again. Kenobi teaser trailer. Andor behind-the-scenes sizzle reel. Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett, and behind-the-scenes sizzle reel. Mandalorian Season 3 behind-the-scenes sizzle reel. Announcement of a new animated series, possibly the Maul Crimson Dawn show. And The Bad Batch Season 2 teaser trailer. That sounds like a great day.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great day.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. And then apparently there's another Disney event happening a couple weeks later where they're going to be announcing more stuff. So we should, anything that isn't announced in a week's time, there's still a chance that it could be announced later.
And
so
we thought we were just gonna get a little old Book of Boba Fett trailer and maybe behind the scenes stuff. How naive were we?
I stand by that analysis from last week. I not in the sense that I think it's still going to happen, but I feel like we were looking at the facts as they were presented, which was they were teasing Marvel announcements and they weren't teasing Star Wars ones. So they were specifically getting people hyped for that. And you look at how Star Wars has marketed things in the past. They don't market two things at once. Unless they don't market two things at once. You get a movie release and then the trailer for the next movie. You get a series release, then the trailer for the next series. They've never marketed two things at once. So we just thought it's Book of Boba Fett. At best, we'll get a Boba Fett trailer, which we've already gotten, and nothing else, because that's
probably why.
Yeah. But that's not how they do it. So it's good that they're going to start marketing two things at once. They need to do that. That is something that it's going to be impossible at some point to just market one thing at a time, given the amount of Star Wars content that is coming up, coming down the line. And let's just look at next year. So let's assume Book of Boba Fett. Let's say it's eight episodes long. So one episode debuts in 2020. So we'll cut that off. But 7. So we'll say 7 in 2021. Let's say Kenobi is 6 episodes. That's 6 episodes over to 13. That's 13 weeks of Star Wars already. Let's then add in Andor, which is 12 episodes, 25 weeks.
Ooh, halfway.
Let's add in a new season of Bad Batch. And if let's say it's another 16 episode season, 41.
41.
And then let's add on a third season of The Mandalorian, another 8 episodes, 49 weeks.
That's almost all the weeks.
There's no off weeks. That's, you know what? That is too much.
Whoa. They've finally gone too far.
Too much. And even if they say Mandalorian, like let's say they do Mandalorian season 3 the same way they do Book of Boba Fett last year or this year, right? Where they say it technically debuts in 2021, but most of the episodes come out the following year. So let's take 7 episodes off of that. That's still 42. That means there's 10 weeks where there's not Star Wars.
Wow.
I just they have to mark. I hadn't sat down and done the math until this Newsnet story came out, because it was a wake-up call that they have to, that we have to change their thinking, because they have to change their thinking, because it's just not possible anymore. It's just not possible to say, we thought it was weird that they said you can't market Solo while The Last Jedi is in theaters, and there was 6 months in between those movies. Now, there might be a week between Kenobi and Andor, for all we know. If that. It may just be the same. They could happen at the same time. It has to be marketed more than one thing. So this is great. I'm so excited.
This is their strategy to get people to stop talking about leaks, because we're not gonna have time to talk about leaks. No one's gonna be caring about the Acolyte when we're reviewing the 2nd episode of Kenobi.
The script of episode 1 of the Acolyte leak. Oh, who cares? We've got 3 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Mando.
There's going to be no news next week or next year. It's just going to be we're just going to do review episodes on this show. There's no news. Forget
talking about the new stuff that we just got this week. Because they're going to drop other stuff on it. It's going to be, a droid story. We don't know what that is. They're going to drop that on us at some point. There could be, a 2nd season of Visions. They'll probably drop on us. There'll be so much other stuff. There'll be YouTube shorts. There'll be all kinds of stuff. There's all the books and comics, video games. We're talking Overload, Star Wars Overload.
There's another one. Let's say they add a droid story in that next year, and let's go back to the 49 number that we had. Let's add on another one. That's 50. And then, as has been pointed out in the chat, there was a leak saying Book of Boba Fett might be 9 episodes, not 8. So let's add on one more. And there we go. 51. 51. There's a week off for Christmas. That's all you get.
Yep. There's just going to be 1 week of this podcast where we're just going to be going, okay. We're going to be breather. Let's take a breather. Let's take a break for a second. Let's just take it all in. All right. We're going to go right back to the grindstone next week. We can't take any breaks.
It'll be December 2022. And we'll be like, all right, we got to get caught up. We have no new Star Wars show this week, so we got to catch up on the news. All right, let's start it off. January. These are all the stories from January.
And we take an off week. We'll be like, several weeks of Star Wars behind. It'll just be insane.
Yeah. Oh my God. What it's gonna be awesome. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, jeez. It's also going to be insane.
We keep saying that every year is like the biggest Star Wars year ever, but 2023 actually could be that year, or 2022 and 2023, whatever.
Honestly, it feels like there's going to be like have to be a bit of a step back in 2023 after 2022. Like, I don't know how you keep that momentum going. Like, okay, another season of Mando.
10 shows. What they haven't told us is that this isn't actually 10 shows. This is 30 seasons.
Yeah. And then because with 2023, remember 2023, there'll be a movie too. There'll be Rogue Squadron.
Oh my God.
So it's going to be great.
You know
that's week 52. That's week 52. There's 51 weeks of Star Wars content this year because there's no movie. Next year after that, there'll be 52 with Rogue Squadron.
Yeah. Well, it's really because, the volume probably is expensive. It probably costs a lot of money to maintain that thing and to build that thing. They don't want that thing empty any day of the year. So it's probably less to do with, filling up Disney Plus's schedule and more to do with making sure that their production equipment is constantly being used.
Yeah, really.
You're like, all right, well, we just finished season 5 of Andor, so we got to go on to something else. Season 10 of Ahsoka, let's go.
Yeah. So everybody just enjoy this little rest before the Star Wars marathon begins on December 29th. It's gonna be lots of fun. So
I can't believe I'm scared of more Star Wars now. Like it's genuinely like it's intimidating me.
It is like it in one sense, like I sort of feel that as well. But at the same time, I'm also just sort of like, yeah, that's literally the dream. To just every week have there be a new Star Wars thing. In fact, give it a couple of years, there'll be a new Star Wars thing every day. Like it's like we'll get 365 new episodes of Star Wars. Like it's awesome. I love it. So that's what we have to look forward to on Disney Plus Day. Now, a programming note from us regarding Disney Plus Day. Yes. We actually should have talked about this off the top, but we'll talk about it now, and we'll make sure to blast this on social media so everybody sees it. Disney Plus Day is next Friday, the 12th of November. Obviously, we record our shows on Thursdays, and it doesn't really make sense to do a preview show for something like Disney Plus Day because within about 24 hours, nobody's going to care about the preview anymore. They're going to want to be talking about the reveals, and we just as fans want to talk about the reveals. So next week, there's not going to be a show on Thursday. But we are going to do one on Friday. So we're just everybody shift things back by 24 hours. So you show up here at 9 o'clock if you're a patron, or 9:30 if you just tune in regularly. For the live listeners, that is. Show up at those times on Friday instead of on Thursday. And for everybody that's listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or just watching after the fact on YouTube, just instead of having the episode ready for you on Friday morning, it'll be ready for you on Saturday morning. It's just we're just shifting everything back by a week, and then we'll get back onto our normal schedule the week after that. So we're going to do a big breakdown. Hopefully, we're going to have trailers and sizzle reels and announcements and all this stuff to talk about.
Guests, it won't be just us.
Yeah, we're gonna hopefully bring on some friends to talk about all this stuff. So it's going to be a great show. So make sure you remember next Thursday on the 11th. Do something else. do
same bat time.
So find something else to do, or we might find something else to do that day. But don't expect a regular show.
There's not going to be a regular show. I want to try to have something for you guys, for people that are in the habit of showing up to reward you for pass and go or whatever it is.
Yeah. This is Star Wars Underworld Opoly now.
Yes.
That is our next Patreon tier, by the way. We're gonna make a board game. But yeah, so if you tune in, if you show up on Thursday of next week for the live show, there'll be something else. Won't be this. But so show up on Friday for a live show. Or just be on the lookout for the show on Saturday morning instead of Friday morning is just sort of how this will go. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the news, but it's not the end of the show. As we mentioned off the top earlier this week, I had the opportunity to sit down with some members of the Hasbro Star Wars team. Now, this is what, if you've listened to the show for a long time, you've seen these before, you've heard these before. It's a roundtable interview with a bunch of different Star Wars fan sites, Star Wars collecting groups, just getting our chance to ask the Hasbro team some questions. So this in this clip you're going to hear, it's kind of a highlight reel from the 40-minute interview. It's about 15 minutes long. We've cut it down to just the best parts, the most essential parts that we think you guys would want to hear. So you'll hear from myself, obviously. You'll hear from Patrick Snyder and Chris Reif from Hasbro. And then you'll hear from representatives from rebelscum.com, Jedi News, Victoria's Cantina, and Star Wars The Vintage Collection Facebook group. So everybody gets into the clip and gets to ask some questions. And for everybody that's watching, you'll actually get to see like a visually enhanced version of the interview instead of just listening to it. So without further ado, enjoy.
morning. Thank you guys, as always, for doing these. Want to start with two of the figures in the Black Series that you revealed this past week, with Boba Fett and Cobb Vanth, two characters that are kind of, they're standalone characters, but they have a little bit of a link there, and it's kind of fun that you have Boba Fett from season 2 of The Mandalorian, which is a classic character in a new look, and you got Cobb Vanth, which is a new character with kind of a classic look. Can you talk a little bit about the design process for each and how you made sure that they paid tribute to what came before while also, standing on their own as new designs and new figures?
Yeah, and I think that's, your question alone is kind of what we're trying to do. It's pay tribute to those characters and the variances in them. Cobb Vanth is, we've said this previously, I think that Cobb Vanth is one of the most heavily decoed figures we've done. There's so much on that, and I think it's deceptive at first when you think about, well, he's just wearing Boba Fett's armor. Well, yeah, but his costume without Boba Fett's armor is complicated. And then it's a more complicated version of Fett's armor on there than Fett ever wore, with all the weathering and chipping deco and stuff. But looking at those two and pieces that are similar between the two of them, making sure that all those details are dead on, it's fun and a great exercise to do that, to balance those two off each other. So, and we try and do that across all the figures like that and wherever we can. These happen to be like two super popular characters with similar features, so they were a nice contrast to each other.
This is for both the Vintage Collection and the Black Series line, since we're big fans of both here on rebelscum.com. And that question is, what is the process of selecting characters to produce figures for both VC and the Black Series? How do you go about maybe prioritizing which characters get produced when?
It's man, we could have a whole half-hour conversation on this, but it's a question for the whole team, really, in a way, because we sit down, we all talk about it. We're all fans. Most of us are collecting figures ourselves anyway, so like we all kind of understand it from different points of view. We're looking at new content and trying to prioritize getting new figures out. I think everybody would agree that we don't need like another one of a figure that we've done previously, and when there's a new character coming, so like things like that, where we want to make sure we get new stuff in people's hands. We want to make sure that we're giving new characters to Black Series and new characters to TVC, and it's just a giant juggling act of all those different things, and then just trying to make sure that we're addressing things like to get characters out that work with play sets that we're doing, and making sure we have a world to support those different pieces. So there aren't necessarily standalone figures or a standalone play set, that it has a halo of figures and choices around it.
All right. Chapter 15 was an iconic episode of The Mandalorian. It's great to have Brown Eyes as a pipeline reveal in that trooper disguise. As many fans know, this is pretty much the tooling needed for a mud trooper in Solo to make his way into TVC collector hands. How much is tooling leverage considered when planning a figure?
It's considered a good bit. Because what it does is it lets an individual figure sometimes be more efficient. So it opens up possibilities for other figures maybe, or to make a more deluxe alternate thing. So we're always looking for ways to do it for efficiencies in figures. And the fact that we have that, like you said, like a mud trooper, like becomes more possible in the future because we have that library of parts and pieces that we can re-leverage on a different figure. So.
All right, so I want to bring things back to something you guys were talking a little bit about earlier, which is the Mando, Grogu, and Ice Spiders figures that you've got coming out. Can you talk a little bit about the design for the process for the Ice Spiders? We're getting some new creatures in there, and if maybe perhaps having little creature pack-ins like that is something that we could see more of going forward.
Hopefully. I think I think having creatures that made sense at the scales we needed for those accessories certainly helped. I mean, we can't do that figure with a blurg in that pack. That doesn't make any sense. But having little spiders that we can do, a lot of fun. So hopefully we see more of that small creature sort of thing in content that we can play with. As far as the design process for those, it was a fun kind of joint thing between the Black Series team and the Vintage Collection team to be able to make sure that our spiders were going to work and be kind of relative to each other in size, so that you can do the thing where if you buy a Black Series and a Vintage Collection figure, you have 3 sizes of spiders to build out your scenes with, and making sure that the detail level and articulation was appropriate for those different scales. And the little tiny spiders, and it's tough to make the little tiny spider legs work quite the same way you can on the other 2 large scales. So, but it's a fun process to do that and figure out what makes sense for the different assortments.
The next specialty wave includes 2 Attack of the Clones figures. Were they included to help celebrate Attack of the Clones' 20th anniversary next year? And will there be additional TVC celebration around this anniversary?
Well, yes, the fact that the anniversary is coming is part of the decision to do those figures, but also just because of kind of the attainability of those figures previously, and to get them back out in people's hands. Plus, they're just fun figures to do. The next year, we're still trying to do things like that, but next year, obviously, there's a lot of new content coming. So, I mean, new content is our priority, but I don't know that we have anything to tell you guys specifically for that. But Attack of the Clones is not a forgotten property.
During PulseCon, we got an updated look at the Leia Organa Elite Force Effects lightsaber. It looks exquisite, it really does. Does Hasbro anticipate going back to the well and previously released lightsabers, such as Luke Skywalker's from Return of the Jedi / The Mandalorian, or revisiting the Skywalker Legacy lightsaber in its reforged incarnation, or any other previously released designs and bringing them back with the Elite treatments?
Well, you saw in our pipeline reveals that Darth Vader is one of the sabers that were coming. So yeah, I think lightsabers are cool. A lot of the lightsabers that were done in FX are cool. So translating those into FX Elite as they make sense with properties and stuff that are happening, I think that's a good place to be. And Darth Vader is a great example of that. So yes, we'll be doing more of that sort of thing.
Great, sounds good. And the last request on those is Flickering Blades. I think that's the last thing we need for them to be like extra awesome.
Perhaps the biggest literally announcement or reveal that you guys made this past week was showing us our first look at the Rancor. Can you talk a little bit about the decision process and why you picked the Rancor, why the time was right for that specific beast, and also the shift from the 3 3/4 inch scale for the HasLab projects to the 6 inch scale?
Basically, this has been in the conversations from the beginning of HasLab several years ago. It's kind of one of the most iconic and large, and the size is kind of right for HasLab. So as we talked about Black Series projects, this one was always in the mix. We saw the great reactions to the one we did for SDCC a couple years ago. It was also, obviously, as we mentioned, it'll be shipping in 2023. And so obviously coming from Return of the Jedi, we're excited to kind of pay homage and celebrate that film in that window. So all of those things led in. And again, we've loved our vintage HasLabs, but we thought the time was right for the first ever Black Series one.
All right, this kind of piggybacks on what Dominic was saying with the Rancor HasLab. Love it. It's awesome. We were wondering, as time goes on and it gets more backers, will we possibly get stretch goals that include accessories for making the scene, additional accessories as additional goals go on, not just figures, but, big bones, some rocks, things like that?
Potentially. Again, we were joking earlier. We should start planning a reveal for these fan side interviews. Yeah, so we can kind of surprise and delight. But nothing to share at this point. But yeah, potentially. Obviously, we've shown there are stretch goals. We're excited to reveal some of those sooner or later. We'll see. But we'll certainly keep the news coming throughout the campaign. But yeah, I think we can safely say that those stretch goals would be things that either interact with the Rancor or are involved in the larger Jabba's Palace scene. But either way, we're excited about them, and we hope you guys will be as well.
All right, this is for both of you. What is your favorite part about making Star Wars toys for the Star Wars fans around the world?
And personally, my favorite part is participating in something that brought me so much joy as a kid, and kind of redelivering that energy that, like, I remember. I grew up in Cincinnati, where Kenner was based, so there were random garage sales all over town where you'd walk up and someone would have a bin full of Droid Factory play sets that was just junk at their garage sale, and just having the immersion of a figure and playing in those worlds and being part of the Star Wars universe as a kid and as a fan, for me, living in the world and participating in bringing that to new people or continuing to deliver it to other fans like myself, that's my favorite part of all of this.
Yeah, I think for me, it's about being able to be a part of something that brings so much joy to people. And that sounds kind of cliched, but that's always kind of driven me throughout my career. I started in the nonprofit sector, did some different things, but I remember when I was looking at this job, I went into a store and I was in the Star Wars toy aisle, and there was a kid there who was looking at toys with his mom or dad, I forget which, and was just so excited. And I was like, that got me really jazzed. And whether it's, kids or adults, and we know that both like the Black Series and Vintage, I think that's what gets me going, is just seeing how excited and happy people are for these toys.
I almost hate to bring it back to the reveals after those answers, guys. That was great.
Oh, good. We should have said this. These conversations, I just really like that about the job, which is not untrue. These are great.
So my next question, with the Galaxy's Edge packs that you revealed, the ones that are exclusive to the parks, can you talk about if there's any sort of differences in creating those packs versus creating the usual multi-packs of figures, and how much say do the parks people have in those ones?
Yeah, so for the individual figures, we try and find, like we do everywhere, ways to make those things new in some unique way. We don't want to just give you the same thing as before. So the Salacious Crumbs with articulating legs this time, just fun little things like that. And it's a fun exploration, how much stuff can we get in here for the amount of money we have and how much this piece is going to cost. So for us, it's an exercise, and we say this all the time. And so I don't want to say it again because I feel like it sounds cliche, but we're fans too. And we want that same level of stuff in there. So, Eric looking at how many creatures he can cram into a creature pack is part of the fun. And it's that way with the whole team, just trying to get the most for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to the second part, we work with the parks team a lot on these items. We've gotten to know them over the past few years. I think we launched our first parks items in 2019. And just, every person I meet at Lucasfilm and Disney is nicer than the last, and they're great partners and passionate about the parks the same way we are about toys. And so it's great to bring that together and to see the products we can create together.
On the day of when all the stuff pre-orders went up, a lot of the Star Wars fans are kind of upset that they paid for a membership, but they weren't able to get the pre-orders like the other products were. They couldn't get them early. So they were wondering why that decision was made for the members that paid, as it was supposed to be a perk to be able to pre-order early. Was there a certain decision of why you guys couldn't do that for the Star Wars brand?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question and do appreciate you sharing it. We got a similar question on another one. We love these sessions partly because it helps us, again, we're always trying to understand what the fans want and are talking about. And so it's helpful to get that feedback. Unfortunately, kind of all I can say, that is the policy at the time. That being said, again, we hear you. We'll certainly take that feedback into consideration in the future. And again, we were excited to kind of, offer, perks in different ways. Like we had the 1027 event last week that was only available to premium members and had some cool reveals, Black Series reveals there. That's about all we can say at this point. All right, we got to jump to Dominic for our final question.
Yeah, and I'll try and be quick because I just saw the Book of Boba Fett trailer just dropped, so I think we all want to jump off and watch that. But we've talked a lot about the reveals that you guys made. I have a quick question about how the reveals get made, especially in a sort of a couple of weeks like this where you have a lot of events. You have the main PulseCon event, you have the premium event, and then you have Lucasfilm's like weekly Bring Home the Bounty reveals. Can you just sort of talk a little bit about how you pick and choose which figures, which reveals for what event? Do you just sort of have a big whiteboard there and you just sort of moving names around going, oh, we'll do Omega here and we'll do Mando there, sort of thing?
Yeah, and I would say, they're all kind of main events. Maybe the premium one was a little smaller, but Bring Home the Bounty and PulseCon were our two big focuses. I'd say it's kind of a virtual whiteboard here with the world where it is. In the past, it would have been a physical one. But yeah, we do try to kind of customize the reveals so that they make, sense for certain events. Things where it's helpful for the design team to be there talking through them. Those make more sense for live streams or something like PulseCon. But yeah, we try to take those into account, try to balance out. We want to make sure we have news for vintage fans and Black Series 6-inch fans and premium roleplay fans. Obviously, there's timing considerations as well. So it's a whole process, but we try to get it right to keep the news and fun coming for fans.
There we are. Again, big thanks to the Hasbro Star Wars team and everybody, all of our colleagues from the different fan sites on that. Were on that call for their great questions. And, Hasbro, as always, were, very generous with their time and giving us some answers there. There's the answer to the thing I teased off the top. I was literally in that interview, and I got a message on my phone saying the trailer has dropped. I'm like, wait, what?
That's hilarious. I don't think those teams were talking to each other. It's a big company, left hand, right hand. They don't really know each other.
Yeah, I mean and to be fair, it's two separate companies, right? Like it's Disney and then Hasbro. Right. So they didn't give them that heads up. But basically,
whoever the CEO of Hasbro is just like calling Bob Chapek, going like, "Okay, what the hell, Bob? You stepped all coordination here."
Yeah, I was listening to the person asking the question before me, and I got that message, and I'm like, "Do I try and watch while this? Like... Do I try?" And in the end, I did not. I waited because I knew I was up next. I knew I had to ask a question.
Willpower, yeah.
But there it is. So yeah, big thanks to the Hasbro team, and awesome. Hopefully we'll be able to do some more of those with those guys again in the not too distant future. But if you were listening to that and you want to see the visually enhanced version of it, we will be putting it up as a standalone video on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel this weekend. So keep your eyes peeled for that as well. But yeah, that's it. That's all we got. That's all she wrote about this episode. So I think with that, we'll wrap things up for this week.
All right, so that'll do it for this episode, and we will not be back same place, same time next week.
Same place.
Yes, you're right, same place, but not same time. There we go. We were trying to put something up around this time for our loyal viewers, but
we're putting it up for our lawyers because we have a contract. I very much see this podcast as a contract between us, the creators, and you, the listeners. And by not releasing a show on Thursday at 9:30 or 9 p.m., I believe we'd be in violation of clause 1138 subsection 66, and we'd have some problems.
Of the parasocial contract. Yes. So, but Friday night, that's when we're going to have our regular show because that is Disney Plus Day. We're going to celebrate Disney Plus Day that night, talk about everything that happened that day. So, there's that Disney Plus shill hat that is showing on screen. I need to crack mine out. Mine has seen better days. I've worn that out in the sun a few too many times.
Should we be matching on Friday, Chris? Should we both wear?
I have to dig it out.
Disney Plus hats.
You get to compare, see how worn mine is versus Dominic's pristine display only one that he just holds up to the camera sometimes.
I'm just gonna attach a Disney Plus logo to this, and I'll wear this.
There you go. That works. That works. But yeah, that's at 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Friday, November 12th, our big Disney Plus Day extravaganza. We're super stoked, and we hope to see all of you there. And anybody that doesn't usually listen to our show live, maybe this will be an opportunity to see it. Maybe you have something that happens on Thursday and you've never watched the show. This first
Celebrate the greatest holiday of the year with us.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. We're coming full circle. I'm going to start singing in a minute.
Full circle. So so we're super stoked for that. And of course, all those programming updates will be on at the SWU across all social media. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting tonight.
It was my pleasure as always. Great fun going through that trailer. I cannot wait for December 29th. It's like we got 3 holidays to look forward to. We got Disney Plus Day coming up in next week. We got Christmas, and that's just always fun, even though that's not really a Star Wars holiday. And then Book of Boba Fett premiere day. It's such an exciting time, and that doesn't even factor in the 40 to 50 weeks of Star Wars content we're gonna have next year. That's just wild. I cannot believe it. I cannot wait. So we're on the precipice of something unprecedented and something very, very exciting. And I think the best thing we can all do at this point is sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride, because boy, I'll tell you, there was a time I didn't think there'd be much new Star Wars. You know, like back in the 2010 to 2013 or 2010 to 2012 era, I was sort of thinking Clone Wars would wind down. Maybe we'd get a live action show, but certainly not 50 weeks worth of it. 50 weeks. So it's exciting. I can't wait. I'm just looking forward to next week. I can't wait to do all this again then.
Heck yeah. And of course, you can follow Dominic on social media at DominicJ25. Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy, thank you for hosting as well.
It was a pleasure as always. It's going to be even a better pleasure next week, when who knows what we'll be talking about. Literally, we will be fresh off this. And if you think we're like adding all this stuff up, going, oh my God, next week we're going to be pulling our hair out. So yeah, it's going to be crazy.
I already did that, Ben. I already did that.
I realized when that joke came out of my head, I'm like, it doesn't apply to all of us.
I've resisted making a bald joke for however many weeks we've been on video. I've resisted doing it, but you gave me the perfect opportunity.
You're welcome. I gave you a plenty of setup there. But this week was fun too. I honestly, just having one little trailer to break down and talk about and spend an hour talking about, a minute's worth of footage. It doesn't get any better than this, but it does, because next week we're going to have 5 of those probably to talk about. So yeah, Disney Plus, a happy Disney Plus Day early, guys. It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
I can't wait. And of course, at Ben Hart with no E's, where you can find Ben on social media, and you can find me at Seek3PO. Shout out to our awesome engineer Chad as well for engineering the show. And let's promote our Patreon one more time and let everybody know that there's a lot of awesome changes coming there very soon. So go to patreon.com/theswu for kind of a half-finished sneak peek about what we're doing. And we'll talk about it fully on a future show. We're super excited to do that. So that's it. We'll be back next week on Friday night. But until then, for Ben and Dominic and all the other great folks at the Star Wars Underworld, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
It's a wrap.